Call the meeting in order. Good evening, South Brunswick. Please rise for the salute of the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board Secretary has caused notice of this meeting, including date, time, and location, to be posted in the South Brunswick Public Library and Board Office, filed with the Township Clerk, and communicated to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. Mr. Pulaski, roll call, please.
Mr. Patrick Del Piano?
Present.
He's here. Mr. Raymond Keener? Present. Mrs. Joyce Mehta? Here. Dr. Here. Mr. Kevin Patel?
Here.
Mr. Arthur Robinson?
Present.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers?
Present.
Mr. Joseph Scaletti? Present. Mr. Barry Nathanson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So, people watching at home understand this is our first meeting that we are actually together in the same room. There are two board members that are currently still on Zoom or on Zoom, Arthur Robinson and Pat Del Piano. They are in attendance. And Zoya, our school representative, she's also on Zoom. Our senior staff are here. The assistant superintendents are in the audience, Jen Desler and Kim White, and they're in the audience because we have to social distance and because of the amount of people that are on the dais, they weren't able to be on the dais, but they are in the audience. So moving along, approval of minutes, board minutes of October 15th. Oh, excuse me, approval of tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion? So moved by Dr. Parker. Board members, can you please make sure you speak to the mic, even especially that you have mask on, so that people at home can hear. Go ahead, Dr. Parker. You moved it?
I moved the agenda.
Do I have a second? Second by Ray Keener. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of minutes, board minutes of October 15th, 2020, executive minutes of October 15th, 2020, and board minutes of October 21st, 2020. Can I get a motion, please?
Mr. President, 1 second. There's a slight error on one of them. I don't remember which one. I can't pull it up. Mr. Keener's name is referenced as Mr. Ray, so I don't know if that matters. I did read that, but I don't know if it was in which minutes it was in.
Okay.
So if you want to adjust that.
Mr. Pulaski, you can take a look at that. Okay. Lisa, you want to make a motion
I
then?
make a motion, sure.
Moved by Mrs. Rogers. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Patel. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Report of student representative.
Barry, we're following the agenda, but sorry.
To executive.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. Do I get, since I went too fast, do I get a motion to move to executive? Okay. The board moved by Joyce Mehta. I have a second.
Second.
Second. Be it resolved that the Board of Education Township of South Brunswick hereby move to go to executive in accordance with Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:421 to discuss the following. Be it resolved that the discussion conducted in an executive session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the matters have been resolved. Formal action may be taken at any meeting. So the public understand, we're going to executive session, and we will be back at 7:45.
At this time, I'm asking all of the attendees to log off this meeting and come back at 7:45. If you do not log off yourself and I have to remove you, then you will not be able to rejoin the meeting at 7:45. So please take a few minutes and log off at this time. Back live.
Call the meeting back to order. We're back at our executive, and we were about to go to the report of the student representative. Zoya, you got it. Go ahead, Zoya.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So today I'm going to start off with announcements from the activities department. So JSA actually hosted a really successful movie night on Monday, November 2nd. They had some difficulties with scheduling, but they pushed through and 40 students attended and had a lot of fun. So that's all that really matters. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and in honor of our veterans, BTN and Suco both made videos to celebrate them and recognize all the service that they've done for us. These videos were shared over our Google Classrooms and our social media, mainly Instagram. And yeah, we just really wanted to take a moment to recognize and appreciate all the veterans, especially the veterans who have served, who are actually members of our school community as well. So that was very special. Student Council is also hosting a mental health week next week. We recognize that this time is really difficult for everyone and student mental health has taken a hit. So we just want people to kind of take a step back from the busy schedules and invest in themselves and their mental health. So those challenges, really small activities are going to be posted on Instagram and our classrooms, and we really encourage everyone to participate. So now for a little bit about our clubs. FBLA is going to be attending the FBLA State Fall Leadership Conference virtually this year from November 16th to 19th. Now, they're sending 14 students, and I know that this group is full of really smart, eloquent students, and I'm sure they're going to do great. So we wish them a lot of luck. The holiday season is coming up, and we have our two fundraisers, Adopt a Family, and we have the Giving Tree Initiative. So Adopt a Family is our annual initiative to help South Brunswick families in need during the holiday season and make it a little bit more special. And so far, 6 groups have signed up to adopt families. We want to recognize and give a special thank you to our clubs and our departments, including Asian Cultural Club, Class Council of 2023, Viking Volunteers, the Humanities Department, the Math Department, and FBLA. The Giving Tree Initiative has to be altered a little bit this year, but we are working on that, and there will be more details very soon. Lastly, the Parent Devil Players, which is our theater group, is hosting a t-shirt fundraiser in order to support their fall play for this year. And now that was all I had for activities. And now I'm going to be talking a little bit about the athletics department. So tomorrow is a pretty big day for our sports. We have football going against Monroe, home at 6 o'clock. And again, only ticket holders are permitted. And tomorrow, the boys soccer team is playing against Elizabeth in the NJSIAA state tournament at 2 o'clock. On the 14th, so on Saturday, the boys and girls cross-country teams will be competing in the NJSIAA Central Jersey State Sectionals at Thompson Park in Jamesburg. Now, they're also amazing. We wish them the best of luck. I'm sure they're going to do great. And lastly, girls soccer Laced Up for Pediatric Cancer and fundraised over $800 for the Go for the Goal Foundation this season. So want to recognize them for doing that. That's really impressive. And yeah, we just commend them for doing that. That's pretty awesome. So those are all the announcements I have for tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Zoya, I appreciate it. Okay, moving along, report of our superintendent, Mr. Fetter.
Hello, everybody. Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome to the meeting tonight. So it's been a crazy time in education and in the world, certainly in South Brunswick, as we've been gearing up for getting started and reopening the schools. Our aim from the beginning of this process has been to monitor and make sure the conditions of learning and the continuity of learning were part of any plan. So number one is health and safety, school operations, and finance. Finance is covered at this point. School operations are well covered. A great deal of time and effort has gone into making sure that our schools are safe, and we've been very successful with that. Health and safety, the protocols, the PPE, the cleaning, the making sure we're socially distanced, the making sure we wear masks, all of that has been effective. So the conditions for learning are well established and have been effective. We're very happy. Right now our schools are safe. The continuity of learning is a tricky one. We're doing remote learning. That is not exactly something we would call a desired choice. Special education. Some students are doing very well. Some students are in school. Some students are struggling. Some students are struggling very badly. We have unfinished learning that we've been dealing with from last year. And again, it just continues to grow. But our strength has been, one of our big moves has been the technology push. We are one-to-one. All of our teachers are using brand new MacBooks. They have headsets to wear. They're able to set up multiple stations in their rooms, in their classrooms at school. And the remote learning is going extremely well for remote learning. Let's not pretend that remote learning is our desire, but for remote learning, it's going very well. Professional learning has been constant as we offer. I know we see Blair Eisman as our PD director, and there's always stuff coming down the pike available for staff. So since we went to hybrid, you know, we've had to do a bunch of things. And where we keep getting caught up is a product of the times. Yes, we've honed our COVID protocols. Our facilities are good. Our transportation is kind of set up. And I mean by kind of set up because we've already been told we're short drivers from our company. We don't know how many yet, but it's already 6 at a minimum, and we didn't even get there yet. It's a big problem we'll talk about. Our technology is in good shape. Digital divide has been stopped in South Brunswick. People that need computers have computers. People that need internet connections have internet connections. Staffing, however, is a continuous challenge. I don't want anyone to take this wrong. That's not because of our staff not being extraordinary people doing great things. It's because of the rules associated and the realities of COVID. Staffing is playing a giant part in the work we're doing in our move towards hybrid. And I'll explain that as we go. This is a little quote. From the start, for the good of the students and staff, the data has driven our decisions. It will continue to do so. And if anyone is watching the data, you're probably as concerned as we are. New Jersey, the state, the country, and the world are finally in the thralls of what has been told to us was coming. The storm has been coming, or if you're a Game of Thrones, winter is coming. Well, winter's here. The numbers, which I'm going to go through today, are alarming, sobering. We want to make sure everyone understands what we're facing as a school district, and you already know what you're facing in your own world. So when we look at the data, we're going to kind of give you an analysis of where we were on October 7th when we announced our plans, our date, and the kinds of data we're looking at, inclusive of state cases, hospitalizations, ICU beds, as well as our local data. So let's start off with a general look at our number of cases. Now, I am a skeptic, personally, not as a superintendent. As a person, as a human being, I have been skeptical of cases being a metric that drives your decisions. So, but I'm going to talk to you about cases anyway, because as a superintendent, I have to care more about cases. I'm going to show you this grid. This is a 7-day average over the course of time. We went back to a period of the peak of the pandemic when it first started out, and we just chose the mid-April. In mid-April, there were about 3,356 cases on average during that week. Then we move all the way to the summer. Things were looking good. August, we were in good shape. We still had concerns about our readiness, about managing opening a school in the pandemic. And as you can see, even all the way up to October 5th, which says 657 cases in a 7-day average, that was still higher than it was before, but not alarmingly higher, and still never approaching those old days of the spring. But then look what happens. We make an announcement that we're going to come back to school, and someone heard and said, no, we don't want you to do that, so hold a second. Look at what happens from November 9th, just for the last 3 days. From an average of 2,200 to an average of 3,500 cases. If you look at from October 5th, when we announced we were coming back, all the way to now, it's a difference of basically a 500% increase in cases. So again, maybe you're a believer that, well, that doesn't matter. Cases don't tell us anything. Okay, let's look at what cases might tell us. What happens when you have a lot of cases? You want to look and see, are you getting a lot of hospitalizations? Well, if we do the same thing and we look again at that, if we go back and we look at the same exact slope, you're basically climbing a mountain. Towards the end of October to now, the increase is 80% hospitalizations. Up to 1,800 as of today, people in hospitals. Well, then you can do what I do as a skeptic, and you can say, okay, but what's a hospital visit? Is it an ER visit because someone was scared but they just got sent home? No, it's admitted patients. All right, but admitted meaning what? Was it really that bad or what? So what's the next way you look at that? ICU beds. Now, you don't just wind up in an ICU bed because you say, I don't feel good. Certain measures need to be in place for you to wind up in an ICU bed. So let's look at what happens. October 5th, the week that we announced we were opening, we were looking at a relatively stable amount of ICU beds. In fact, if you go back to the beginning of the summer, you're a little higher, and it was actually sloping down. Since October, the week of October 5th to today, it's a 250% increase. I cannot be the skeptic I was when I'm looking at the number of cases directly correlate to the number of hospitalizations, and now directly correlating to the number of ICU beds. And whatever you can say, no doctors are putting people in ICU beds without a reason. That's an alarming, scary issue. Today, Penn Hospital, I still know it as Princeton Hospital, became a divert hospital where they were diverting patients. So that's real data. This is not Scott over-exaggerating. This is the data. Now we go deeper and we start looking at ourselves. Let's look at our local data. Our doctor is the school district doctor, is Dr. Fan. If you know Dr. Fan, you know Brunswick Urgent Care, an awesome facility, an awesome doctor. Been working with us on a reentry committee. And we have the good luck to talk to him today and ask him how it's going. Well, Brunswick Urgent Care was used to getting 5 positive cases daily reported. They're getting 30 a day. That's our backyard. That's not what's happening in somewhere else. That's not happening in Lakewood or Bergen County or Union. That's right here. So we are now moving 600% in cases Again, if you go back and you look at what cases cause, cases lead to hospital stays, lead to ICU. That's what's happened. The good news, it's not leading to the death that it was leading to back in the spring. Those numbers are staying static, and that's the best news I have to tell you. But people are getting sick. That is true. Now we look at ourselves. Right now we have 8 members of our staff under quarantine. We have 14 students that we know of under quarantine, and why I say that we know of, that's because people are virtual. They don't tell us. We only know what people tell us. We just had an outbreak in our schools, in the high school, caused a shutdown. That's before we even really opened. We already were shut down. Another piece of data, if you remember, or if anyone was listening, we were at about 76% of our families were keeping their kids home no matter what we did. That number is now 82%. 166 students were taken out of hybrid and moved to virtual this week alone. If I extrapolate that information, I'm assuming we're going to lose another 10% or more by Monday. You have to understand, not having kids does not make it easier. It seems like, well, that's better. Less kids, easier. No. Yes, easier for health and safety. No, easier for learning. Not good. Bad. Very challenging to educate 2 kids sitting in front of you and 18 online. At least an even swap, 10-10, you can manage. It's not good. We are in bad shape. The data is saying we're in bad shape. Not Scott, not this Board of Education, the data. So let's look at some more data. This is a double graph with the line graph is showing the number of COVID cases reported in the schools. The bar graph is the average number of daily cases that South Brunswick sees. Now, I'm learning about the data that gets brought to South Brunswick, no fault of South Brunswick, but the data that gets brought to South Brunswick is skewed data. It doesn't always come in clean. The good news is our Office of Emergency Management, led by Jim Ryan, and his health department are cleaning the data. So this number I have here of 7.5 daily average of cases is a little higher than it might actually be because they're getting data that's old data sometimes. So when they scrub the data, it will shrink that number a little bit. But it means it shrinks all the other numbers. So instead of shrinking any numbers, what you're basically looking at is in the last 3 days, the number of cases that we're dealing with as a town is rising by 100%. That's about what you're looking at. So whether the data is right or wrong, all the data is right or wrong, I'm going to leave it that way. At the height of the pandemic, we were getting between 60 and 90 cases a week in South Brunswick. Now again, was the data right or wrong? I don't know. But what we're looking at right now is you're almost at 50 a week now. Basically, our numbers are approaching where we left off. That's kind of where we're going. Look at our own school district. We're dealing with 9 cases right now. There was never a time where we dealt with more than 3. In the last week, we've tripled the number of cases. And guess what's going to happen? We're going to be far more than that. So as a superintendent, I'm freaking out a little bit. I don't think I sleep anymore, but I don't need you to worry about that. I'll sleep eventually. But this is really bad stuff. And I'm sitting here, and I'm about to make a bunch of people probably not like me very much. And that makes me sad. But I don't know what to do to tell you to open schools and yield this. This is what is going to happen. And I have to care about 2 things more than anything else. It's not how many people are yelling at me at the mic. It's not how many people get on today and start saying why we're bad or why we're good. I have to care about 2 things, and 2 things only. I got to care about the safety of our entire school community, and I have to care about the learning of our students. I cannot do that and look at these numbers and say, I can do that by just doing what I said I was going to do, because I said it. I can't operate that way. So I'm left with a very, very, very challenging situation. Let the data talk, or bypass the data, and say, come on, is that really a big deal? It's COVID. Come on, it's the flu, or whatever people want to say. I don't care what anyone says. I have the task right now to either put 1,000 to 2,000 people a day in a building, and here's what Dr. Fan told me. Scott, why in the world would you force congregation at a time where we need to figure out ways to stop congregation? Do not open your schools. So I can say, well, I don't care about what Dr. Fan says. He's just a doctor. He doesn't know. He's not an educator. I'm the educator. So I got to deal with disruptions. Let me explain the disruptions to you. The quality, the continuity is huge when you think of learning. I can do quality and continuity by doing what I'm doing now. And for most kids, that's working. The problem, the part that eats away at my soul, is it's not working for everybody. In fact, it's downright horrible for some kids and their families. That's a tough situation to be in, where the best I could tell you is I could try to make that better. I could try to make that better. But bringing you back into school, to this in-person environment, let me tell you what one of our local districts is doing for their in-person learning right now. I'm not going to tell you the district name, but this is the district, and this is how they describe their school district in New Jersey. We have had to move to fully remote for all 3 high schools, 4 of the 5 middle schools. Elementary schools are still up and running on a class-by-class basis. What in the world does that even mean, class-by-class basis? That is our current reality in some places. This is the base of the peak of this mountain. We are just starting from what everyone is telling me. So when I think of quality and continuity of instruction, it's not just do the best you can with what you got. We have to make decisions. Excuse me. Here's a giant issue for us. Whatever I believe about cases, whatever I believe is irrelevant. We have been provided direct guidance from the state and the CDC. And I heard today that it was talked about how schools are not a place or a place to worry. I agree. I am telling you, I don't see our school as being dangerous. I don't. We have people in the school every day. We're not having issues in the school. It's not happening. But I don't have all my kids in the school. I don't have all my teachers and all my staff in the school because a lot of them are quarantined or on leaves or need to not be in school to protect their families. So, when I hear that schools are not the problem, okay, I'm glad to hear that because I don't think ours is the problem either. But in the last 3 days, 15 schools are shut down. Before that, the entire rest of the school year, 36 had shut down. That means in 3 days, 30% of the 51 schools that have shut down in the last 3 days. That is telling us there's something, big shift, big change. I know we're going to hear other school districts are doing it. No other school district has done it in the middle of these numbers. Nobody. They're doing it for a few days now, but they're not doing it for longevity. Some districts will continue opening, some will close, some that are open will close. If these numbers continue going where they are, no one is going to be able to staff their buildings. Because regardless if the schools are safe, everyone is living outside of the schools. The kids, the staff. As I said before, we are down bus drivers before we even get to a day where we need bus drivers. How many bus drivers are we going to be down on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on the week of Thanksgiving, on the week after Thanksgiving? I'm going to guess we'll be down 20, 25%. Those of you that lived here 3 years ago and used the buses 3 years ago, you remember a hellacious situation of buses. Dave and I walked into that as new administrators here, and it was horrible. That might look like rainbows and sunshine compared to what this is going to look like. So that's a reality. Regardless of what anyone thinks, we cannot run a district with the rules that are put upon us. When someone wakes up with a headache, it's 14 days of remote. 14 days people have to stay out of school. 14 days every time something goes wrong like that. That doesn't mean our teachers and our paras and our drivers are being bad people. In fact, you could not ask for better people. It doesn't matter. They're bound by the same rules. The quarantining is one part, but here's the killer. Normally, we post a position here in South Brunswick and say, hey, we need a kindergarten teacher. We get hundreds of applications, hundreds. We have 2 kindergarten openings we've had since the summer we can't fill. Can you imagine we cannot fill an elementary school teacher position right now? Subs. Kim White's up in the audience today because she couldn't fit in our table because of our social distancing. Hello, Miss Kimberly. Kimberly's been working with our subservice, and all we wanted to do was we wanted to hire people permanently. We wanted to give people jobs permanently. I think we were looking at about 30 people we were going to give jobs to, right, Kim? Yeah. She said yes, by the way. We have 4? 5? 4. 4 out of 30. That means every single time someone's out, we have no one to fill that position because there's no subs coming in. This is not a South Brunswick issue. This is everywhere. The subs that we had that agreed, the people we've offered jobs to that agreed, they backed out. It's happening every day. We lose candidates every day. This is bizarre. South Brunswick is known to have massive candidate pools for any job we put out. Nothing. We literally are an empty cupboard. So when we think about the issue and people want to say, well, why do the teachers just come in? It isn't their fault. They can't come in. If they're married to someone, if their kid has COVID, if they were exposed to someone, they're out 14 days every single time. No ifs, ands, or buts. These numbers are going to rise. You know how I know they're going to rise? Because the hospitalizations rose, the ICU beds rose, and every single other number has risen with the number of cases. Every single other key data point has risen. So have our people that are quarantined. If I was extrapolating this information or expanding it to the next week or the 2 weeks out, I'd say our 9 is going to be in the 20s. I'd say we'll lose hospital. I don't even know what's going to happen in the health world. But the school world, right now I can tell you, we are set up to handle this. We can handle it. Our administrators have been unbelievable in making sure they're ready. We met with everybody today because I just didn't know what, I'm telling you, I don't have the best answers. I asked every single administrator the same question. Are we ready to open on Monday? Every single one of them said yes. Every single person said, we're ready. We'll manage. We'll figure it out. Then I have to go right back up to the first bullet. Figuring it out? That's what we're going to revolve around? Figuring it out. We're going to spend all of our time figuring it out. Moving kids from this class to this class, having kindergartners sitting in the library doing RLC work. It's not learning. It's not continuity. It is not at all what South Brunswick is. So, in talking through all this today, you come up with some epiphanies on occasion. And all I can tell you is all I do, all the administrators do, we focus on opening and closing. We focus on the safety matters so that we can open. And I'm telling you, we're overwhelmed. We're not overwhelmed because we're not good at this job. In fact, I think our team is amazing. We're overwhelmed because the numbers are getting crazy. Parents are flipping out. You know how I know they're flipping out? They're pulling their kids before we even start. I don't think we'll have more than 10% in by the time we hit Thanksgiving. That's my guess. We've already lost the high school. Yes, we can get it back, of course. It'll reopen. But I'm looking at schools. Hamilton keeps closing the same high school over and over again. The school I just mentioned to you before, all their high schools are closed. All 80% of their middle schools are closed. Whatever anyone thinks about what they're able to do yesterday, we have to decide and make a decision, can we do it tomorrow? Our doctor is telling us, no, you cannot. Do not do this. So we have to think of learning and quality, not opening and closing. The only way to avoid every single conversation with every single parent, with every single staff member, to be about opening and closing is not to open. And that's a horrible, horrible situation for many kids and many families. Imagine what that means to these educators that never signed up for any of this, but no one ever signed up for any of this, no matter what you do in life. And they know every day they're not meeting the needs of their kids. Every day, they know that. There's nothing worse than feeling like you cannot succeed to the best of your ability. When you give it your all, it does not yield the results you want. So when we add the next layer of this, and we now do a hybrid model, and we have barely any kids coming in the building, one of two things is going to happen. Somebody's going to make the most out of that and make it work, and it might be a little bit lesser for everybody, or they'll make it work and they'll figure out a way to make it better for the kids that are in person and probably a little bit lesser for the kids that are home. That's probably the way this is going to look. Can we fix that? Sure. We can break up the entire system and rebuild it again. With anyone who wants to come in, you lose your teacher, you lose everything, and you start fresh. Some people will say, great idea, we'll do it. I sign up for that. And then some people will say, no way, not worth it. I am not going to make everybody happy. In fact, I am 100% positive tonight and tomorrow and the next day, I will upset people, anger people even. I'm angry, and I won't be able to fix it. That's my dilemma as a superintendent. I pride myself on being able to fix problems. I'm a problem solver. I cannot solve COVID in a school system when the cases are rising beyond what we're even ready to see. When the incidences associated with those cases are directly impacting our ability to educate kids. I absolutely want to open these doors and bring our kids back. That's really all I want to do. In doing that, however, I'm going to hurt those same kids because no one is going to get what they think they're going to get. In-person learning is not, I come into school and hope my teacher's there, and if my teacher isn't there, somebody will teach me, or maybe not. Maybe my teacher will teach me, but my teacher will be home. Oh, and maybe the school won't even open because we might have 2 cases, or we might get exposure, or this or that or the other thing. I'm not being an alarmist. I'm being a realist. I'm not asking the board to support, not support. The board hired me to make these horrible decisions. Thank you guys very much for that. The bottom line is, I can do this and just say, all right, guys, listen, we did it. Check off the box, we're open, we're good to go. Now we just let the ball roll and go. That is an option. It is absolutely an option for us to disregard the data, disregard our doctor, and make a system work and just let it go. I will tell you again, every single principal said we are ready to open. We can do it, Scott. Our teachers are ready. They've been in the building now for a couple weeks. They're ready. Heck, they're probably even excited about it. Because our teachers aren't afraid, but they are afraid because it's COVID. And who wants to expose to that? Now, the good news again, schools are not being shown to be the places of massive transmission. We have been operating with lots of kids every day, and we're not transmitting it. We did have one case this week where it was transmitted to kids, not to adults, and that isn't good, but that's only the first case, and we've been open for a long time with lots of kids. So yes, the argument can easily be made, your next level is to open up. The icing on the cake is when my doctor tells me, why in the world would you do this? Why would you force congregation? I don't know. I think I've changed my mind 100 times. I think I told the board it was 100 times. It might have been more than 100 times. I'm probably going to change my mind again. But right now the data is telling us pause. The data is not telling me to close. The data is not telling me to shutter the buildings. The data is telling me to, Scott, pause. Take a breath. Now, what everyone should be saying to me is, why are you doing this right before we're ready to come in? Well, for the last 3 days, the numbers have spiked almost 100%. Doubled in almost every category in 3 days. The analogy I use is a snowstorm. If you all watch the weather as much as I do, I have no choice but to watch the weather in the winter. We generally hear about a potential snowstorm a week or 2 weeks away. When I hear about the snowstorm 2 weeks ago, I don't call school for 2 weeks later and say, you know what, on Thursday, 2 weeks from now, the weatherman said we're going to get a snowstorm, so guess what? We're closing on Thursday, 2 weeks from now. Never have I done that. In fact, rarely do we even call the day before the snow. Now, I've done it before because sometimes there's so much clarity that there's no choice but school's going to be closed. So you call it the day before to give people a break. It was brought up by this board to consider closing the school, to not follow this plan back in October. Back in October, we were told there's potential for a second wave. They've been telling us that for months. Well, that wasn't enough. I wanted to see the snowflakes. Well, they're here, and they're coming down a lot harder than we thought. It reminds me of the November 15th, I think my first or second year here, when that storm came out of nowhere and we had kids on the buses till like 7 p.m. Well, we're there. So I have a choice. Open schools and see if the buses can get our kids there, see if we can get enough people to staff it, and then do our best to say, we opened the schools. Congratulations, we opened the schools. Or figure out a way to educate our strugglers. Spend the time, spend the money, do whatever I have to do to help those kids that this is not working for. You do that by opening your schools. Our teachers are already in their rooms. They're there. It's a different story to bring a kid in that needs to be in than it is to open your schools. We proved that with the RLCs. We didn't do all of the school, and it worked. It worked. We're doing school right now every day in a lot of our schools with our special needs kids. It's working. We don't need to change that. But we need those RLCs back. So we have to figure that out. How do we do that? We need a way to get kids that need to be in the school. Special needs kids, kids with IEPs, kids with 504s. I don't care what grade they're in. The high school is running an RLC with 40 kids because they found 40 kids that needed to be here. Nothing is going to stop us from doing what we need to do for our kids. And yes, opening our schools is our number one. Yes, I want to do that. But you can't ask me to do that and put all of these people at risk, and we become part of the problem. We can't do that. As good as our schools are, as safe as our schools are, we cannot do that. These numbers are not fake. They're not pretend. We are in the middle of what potentially is going to look worse than what it did before. Again, hopefully not with death. But it looks like everything else is coming down just as they said it would. Opening a school in the middle of that, when we have a successful program for most of our students, and we won't be able to make it successful for the other students. See, that's the key. If I could open the schools and make it successful for the other students, then heck, maybe I'll take the chance. But I can't do that. I cannot do that. So what am I doing? I'm opening schools because I said I was going to. And I'm sorry, board, I don't think I can offer that to you. So what we can do is use the data, figure out ways to get our kids back in safely in small groups, in ways that will help them, that will help our families. We're also partnering with other forms and sources and resources to help that. The big question I know I'm going to get asked is, what about winter sports? I can't even believe we're talking about winter sports. I can't believe there's still a conversation coming out of the state that said all these other things, except wrestling and basketball, are absolutely fine. I don't get it. But I'm putting it on hold because we were told on November 20th, we're going to get word from the state, NJSIAA. They are they run high school sports, to hear what they have to say, to see what we can do. My position has not changed on clubs, extracurriculars, sports, connections. Our kids need everything they can get. This is horrible for our kids. Today, Ray Haduka, our chief of police, reported the mental health issues are rising. Not opening is not going to help that. But opening in the way we have to open, for the limited time we'll be able to be open, without the staff we need, is not going to help that either. And that's the dilemma. We want what we want. I can't do it. I don't have the power to solve the issues associated with COVID. and the rules that the CDC and the state has put upon us. And those rules are there to keep people safe. So, the best I can tell the board is we pause. We put remote instruction, we leave it as is. That means the times and schedules of each school, leave it exactly as is, no change. The high school stays the high school, the middle school stays where it is, elementary stays where it is. There's a lot of value to that particular schedule, and we're going to keep it. We keep our special ed programs moving. We look for ways to bring in more special ed programs. We look for ways to bring in our struggling learners. We figure out how to get many RLCs in every building, not housed in one building. We figure it out, and we do it as fast as we can. I'll continue to keep this community updated on our issues with health and safety, but it's the strategic approach to how we're going to help our kids. That's what I can commit. That's what I can offer. If you prefer for me to open schools, I'll open schools, and that's fine. And we'll get as many buses as we can rolling. We'll get as many staff as can be in who aren't quarantined in, and we'll do a pretty damn good job of it. I promise you that. But it will not be the job that we want us to do. And it will not be a job we can sustain. Our doctor said, you don't force congregation in the middle of a time when the whole world should be figuring out ways to stop congregating. Will other schools open on Wednesday and Monday? On Monday, I would imagine they will. Will other schools close? Yes, I imagine they will. Are people going to tell me, but other places can do it, why can't we? I'm sure they will, and they won't be wrong. But we've had great success through amazing staff, paraprofessionals that since day one have put themselves in front of our kids without hesitation, teachers who will do anything they can to help these kids. I know if we open on Monday, our people will be there to the best of their ability. But I'm telling you, with 100% promise, we cannot staff these buildings correctly to make it be what it needs to be. So we'd be doing a subpar service to this community, but that still will be better for many of our families. So because of that, we have to figure out a way to get the kids that need to be in school. That has to become our pivot. We have to pivot to that being our focus. Because if you have to still keep the focus on open and close, we'll never get to that. We will open and always be looking at closing. The kids that need to come in will come in until they can't. And they'll be coming into something. And I hate saying all this. And I got to tell you, this is nothing that we want. I guarantee I cannot ask a teacher and get an answer of, yeah, I'd rather be home. Maybe right now they'd rather be home, but they don't want to be home. Anyway, that's the best I have for you, board. We're in a lousy position, and I'm going to go with the two things that matter most: health and safety, and the best instruction we can give. And my best educated opinion is that happens by continuing what we're doing right now and building upon that. Not going back to open as I had hoped we could from October 7th when we announced it. That ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Feder. I know you have another presentation. Do you want to open up to any kind of questions?
That was just my report. It's up to you. I know Jen is waiting to give.
Okay, why don't we do the presentation for the district goals, and I can open up the questions for both.
I'm going to invite Jen Disler, our Assistant Superintendent for C&I.
So I'm actually going to start as they pull it up, because I can definitely get into every year, as you know, as a board, we present to you district goals. And unlike any other year, this is just a crazy year. But part of what we do is we plan, and we have a mission and a vision, and we plan to carry it out, and we have ideas and goals. What I want to share with you, as you just heard from Scott, a couple other things are taking a little bit of priority, right? What our focus is. And we do have our eye on certain areas, and we have these hopes and dreams, and we want to get to some of them, and we know we will, and I'm going to share with you what we want to do, but we also know that we have this reality of COVID and how do we care for our kids and organize and get folks in and safely. So that's kind of been our back and forth. We have the mission for a school district is always to see forward, right? To see beyond the trees. And so that's part of what we do as an administration and our team is to start to see beyond the trees. And so our goals tonight is really what we're looking at. So some of these things are very visible and part of even in this COVID world, and some of them are pie in the sky and we hope to get to. So usually when we present goals to you, we're able to tell you we will do X, Y, and Z. We're going to report back. But what I'm sharing with you tonight is that there's a mix of what the reality is versus what we aim to do. Our biggest goal, so again, just sharing and reminding you that a year and a half ago, we together built a strategic plan, and with that, we revised and renewed our vision and our mission for our schools. And our mission to ignite our passion, nurture potential, and embrace the future is really our guiding force with the vision of what we see for our students and for our kids and what learning should be. You can go on to the next. In addition to that, we have core values. Equity, partnerships, and innovation intertwine into everything that we do and see for our district. As I just mentioned to you, it's okay. As I just mentioned to you, we have hopes and dreams. You can go on. We have these hopes and dreams of what we are planning we want to do, and you can click it again, but we have this reality. And you can go to the next slide. Click it and click it again. Perfect. So our hopes and dreams stem around our 3 district goals this year: strategic planning, implementation, equity, and safety and security. But then you see we have this reality of COVID and its student and staff safety, the COVID protocols and governor orders, our student equity and access amongst our COVID times, and the forever changing staff needs. You can go on to the next. Go on to the next. So our first goal is implementation of our strategic plan. About a year and a half ago, as you know, an entire team worked together, all stakeholders, and we built a beautiful, beautiful plan. And I'm here to say that many aspects of it are still intact as we had hoped and planned for. And we do plan to carry out parts of our strategic plan this year. You can go on. This is just a view of the dashboard, as I call it, and you can see in the columns of what we had planned for this year and sort of our actual of what we're thinking. And you can see we're putting on pause a few items, but we're also I can't read it from here, geez. Some of those blue pieces is maintaining as well as continuing progress on some of them. But you'll see, and I'll mention it when we get onto another slide, but some things because of COVID are actually happening faster at a faster pace. You can go on. These are the areas of our strategic plan, just as a reminder to everybody: wellness, academic programs, community, student supports, and growth. So here's the breakdown for this year of what we're hoping to accomplish. You're going to see parts of that are visible, things that are being already implemented, and then some behind the scenes. The visible work, if any of you, and a shout out to Devin and Barry, they were there the other night. We are continuing our mission of social and emotional learning. We have parent academies that are happening and planned for, and there is tons of support happening at every level. In addition, our health and safety strategic planning goals are definitely visible. Front and foremost, our pandemic protocols. And in addition to that, part of the visible work is communications. We've really improved in that area and are continuing to do so due to the nature of our world right now. There's a part of our website right on about COVID and everything that's happening with up-to-date information, which based on Scott's message tonight, I'll be changing up a little bit. But we have that information, and communication is there and visible. Implementation, these 2 areas moved at a faster pace. So there's always a silver lining, right? That's our theme this year. And 2 silver linings of our strategic plan are implementation of personalized learning, which is needed for our virtual environment for our students, as well as the device initiative. Big shout out to our tech department. I just heard from a teacher today that they had their laptop in hand. They had something that they just needed. It wasn't charging. Within minutes, they put in a school dude and the tech was there. That's how quick they're being responsive to it. The implementation has been superb. Sharon and her team have done an outstanding job. That got off the ground way quicker than we expected, could even picture and hoped and dreamed. And what our teachers have and what our students have in front of them is definitely a silver lining to our situation. Behind the scenes, I'm proud to say that we're not losing sight. This has been something that was definitely a huge part of the strategic plan and an area that our families and all of us wanted to see happen. This is that wave of the future. This is that cool thing that are going to keep us, again, not just looking at the forest, but beyond. It's career academies. And so the work there is still in its fledgling stage, but come January, we work with an outside consulting group called Ed Elements. They're helping us to do this work, and Peter in the high school, we have a team, and that work is going to begin to get started with a hopeful implementation date to see some visible for school year 22-23. So as you all know, anybody high school related, we put things and have our booklet out by January. So we will use this January to next January to plan and create so that for the following school year there can be something, and that will be something we'll grow into, but that's an exciting part of the future for us in our strategic plan. You can go on, that's just a visual. All right, our second goal is equity. This is not only a core value, but part of everything that we do in the fabric of who we are in South Brunswick. I'm not gonna read to you, you can see what our goal is. This is again, our high hopes for the year. We know that some of these pieces, the second bullet, I look at Kim, this is definitely how we aspire, but as you just heard, the difficulty of hiring anybody right now it's very difficult. So these are our hopes in the order of equity. We are continuing to grow our capacity and cultural competence. We have a fantastic district core team led by 3 to 4 of our administrators who are outstanding and keep this in the forefront for us. And our last goal is health and safety. This is always part of any district plan. This is whether you're in COVID or not, the health and safety of our students. Before they can learn, you have to feel safe. So you can see that we are continuing work with our comprehensive review of our emergency operation plan. This is all under the guidance of Jim Conroy, who is our specialist and has been a strategic part of all things of our COVID protocols for health and safety. And so a shout out to him and his team, and we're continuing to do each of those bullets. Obviously, the second one is probably the first and foremost, but some of those, the first bullet, I believe, has already happened, so we're moving along there. So you can see, and I think that might be it, yep. So again, our district mission, there are some silver linings in our district plan. We will report back to you later in the year of our progress, but we are hopeful and we still have a vision to the future of South Brunswick and really work hard to make sure we are moving forward, and I would turn it back over to you, President, if there's any questions.
Okay, so the way we work right now is if you have any questions of Jen regarding the district goals. Mrs. Rogers, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just 2 quick ones. The ones that are on pause, is that specifically due to reprioritization or resource issue?
Not resources, just prioritization. Can't do it all.
Right,
And, yep.
because of COVID, okay.
Yep.
And the one that was there was the ambassadorship and the mentor. Are they working through the peer program, or is that separate from the peer program?
There's different avenues of where you're seeing that, and so one of the ambassador pieces was a sorority type connection that we had that started due to COVID. There's been some pause. We just haven't had some of those on-site things, but there is still connections, and our hope this year is to continue that. That'll be determined on just what's actual feasible, but that's what we're talking about. The peer program is already a standing happening, and that's continuing to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Great
welcome.
job. And good job, because You guys are doing a balancing act, and it's a hard act to do, so you're doing great.
Thank you.
Anybody else to the right? Anybody to the left? Mr. Patel, go ahead.
Thank you, Jen, for great presentation again. So I have a question about equity. So I know equity has been a district goal for the last couple of years now.
Yeah.
And I know we did a lot of progress in that. I know we had committee and I was part of that committee too along with Mrs. Mehta. So how are we doing with that? I know, are we reaching, are we 50%, 75%, 80%? I know maybe we are not measuring
That's
it.
a great question.
Because the reason behind the question, because there is a perception out in community that we are not doing enough.
Yeah.
And I just want you to tell them that no, we are doing enough.
Well, I don't know if we're ever doing enough, right?
Okay.
And I think that this always should be one of our goals, right? So we can't check that off the box and say we've done that, we're finished. So that's going to be our mission's work to continue to raise the bar for what we learn and know for equity. The racism issue, the learnings that are happening for our district, we're targeting right now our administrative team, and we have a whole host of strategies of what we're trying to do to educate us so that we can then turn and help our staff to then turn and help kids, curriculum changes. All those pieces are ongoing, and they're written there in a district goal, but they're not going to go away. That's going to continue to be a focus for us.
Very good. Thank you very much. And about Parent Academy, you mentioned that that Monday night was excellent, and I know both educators were excellent. So how many people actually coming in? Because I know it's hard to see numbers.
Yeah, I
so
don't see that. I can tell you, and this is almost true fashion of parent academies, we had 168 people sign up, but we had about 60 attend. And that seems to always be the way people intend, but I can tell you that immediately after the presentation, within, and again, thanks to our tech department, within 24 hours, we do have it posted to our website, so it becomes a resource for anybody that couldn't attend.
Absolutely, and that's excellent.
Yeah, and our next one is I believe, the 23rd?
23rd, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up soon, at the end of this month.
Good. Thank you very much. And because I'm part of New Jersey School Board Association's Health and Wellness Committee, and most of the school districts are struggling, and we are way ahead. I know Vince talked to you, Vince DeLucia talked to you about the Parent Academy, and I encourage them to attend ours. So thank you for doing a great job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else to the left? Guys at home, Arthur or Pat, do you have any questions? No? You good?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just have to say, Jen, you know, it's senior staff and all the staff that work with you did a phenomenal job. I have to, and the parent academies are better than it's ever been. And the other night was a fantastic parent academy. I just have to.
We appreciate your
Tell you
support.
So, you know, I know you guys might have questions of Scott, but last time we passed the ball to, like Scott said, we passed the ball to Scott, and Scott is just telling us where we're going at this point. So, you know, I don't know if you have any specific questions, but
Can I just say one thing?
yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing, I know one of the things that people might be looking for is a vote. To the community, we're not voting. This isn't a vote.
Go ahead.
This is where we're going. That does not mean we can't have discussion, but for the community, this is for the community. There's not a vote. This is where we're going. The board has given me that authority as a superintendent to make that decision. I'd rather give it back to them so they can make the decision, but they're volunteers who spend their time as elected officials. I'm the paying customer on this one, or the paid customer. So just putting that out there, but I'm of course open to any questions you may have.
Anybody all right? Mrs. Rogers.
Just to clarify, we're starting on Monday, and, I'm sorry, excuse me, we're starting with the mini, when you go to this plan, it will be the mini RLCs, and what will be the times, the start times?
So we're not starting anything. We're doing exactly what we're doing today.
Okay.
This is what we're doing. The RLCs, you know, the idea of bringing more kids into the building, we're going to look at how to strategically do that. So I'd hesitate to give a date Giving dates is a problem because this virus doesn't care about our dates. So what I can tell the board and the community is we are prioritizing getting kids that need to be in our schools, K-12. And that includes kids that need to be in school because their parents can't take care of them at home. That's part of our responsibility at times. But also getting our kids with our IEPs, getting our kids that need to be in school. We have to figure out ways to do this. I'm going to be asking Jen and our administration to start a team. I'll probably announce this before I go to bed, and start figuring out at every level what we need to do. I know the schools are already doing stuff, but we have to dig in deeper. If we're going to be in this for the long haul like this, which it looks like it possibly will be, we need to dig in and figure this out. Get as many kids as we can safely into these buildings and take care of them and educate them. When they can't do it at home, we have to help them.
Thank you.
Anyone else to the right? Any to the left? Yeah, Mrs. Matter, you have a question?
Mr. Feder,
Comment?
considering that parents were expecting for some of their students to start on Monday, what is the process now to go forward? How would you like parents to contact the administration?
We'll be contacting I'll be putting out the communication tomorrow or tonight, most likely tomorrow, that will be announcing all of this.
Okay.
Parents wouldn't be contacting the school. There's nothing to contact the school. I'll say this, if people need to yell at somebody, I'll use a term from one of my favorite movies, Tombstone, I'm your Huckleberry. So feel free to blame me, yell at me. Don't yell at our schools, do not yell at our teachers, do not yell at our principals, do not yell at this board. If someone has to yell, it's me. But let's hope they don't. I hope that people understand the situation we're in is not me or the board or anyone. This is an uncontrollable virus that no one's been able to put down. And we're going to keep people safe and figure out the best way to educate them.
Thank you, Mr. Feder.
Yes, Scott, thank you. Thank you very much. I just have one question regarding lunches that we were delivering. What are we doing?
Just consider, everything we're doing today, we're just going to keep going.
Okay.
That's all the things that are happening. Our
Okay.
teachers are teaching from their classrooms. Our special ed programs are up and running, the ones that are.
Okay.
Just assume tonight didn't happen. It's just
Okay.
tomorrow.
So we're just continuing what we're doing. Sounds great. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Yeah, Mr. Patel.
Mr. Feder, so teacher, you said what it was going on today. So his teachers are going back in school, or they are
Our teachers are already back in school.
so
Let's just
that stays.
assume
Okay.
there's no question you can ask me that the answer is not going to be, we're going to do tomorrow what we did today.
Okay.
Very simple.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feder. Okay, moving on. The next part is public comment. So I'm going to read the statement, and I'm going to have Mr. Pulowski go through there are some people that signed up to speak prior to the meeting, and we're going to go to them first, and then whoever wants to talk. So the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of the rules that govern this portion of this meeting are available to the public at the back of the room, or you can obtain any advance copy by contacting the board office during regular business hours. We reserve the right to limit each speaker to no more than 3 minutes. Based on the amount of people that have put in and that are on the site, we are going to limit them to use the 3 minutes. It is our plan to listen to each member, to the public. We will note all questions and comments made. Once all questions and comments from the members of the public are made, the Board of Education will respond, if necessary, to questions or comments in the most timely and efficient manner available. Please consider not to repeat comments and questions made by other members of the public. I ask that you state your name, place of residence, or your group affiliation. Mr. Pulaski, you and I had a conversation before. You have about 25 people that signed up. If they're on the call, can you go through them first, please?
Yes, currently we have about 25 people signed up, pre-registered to speak. We only have 3 people with their hands up.
Okay.
So I'm going to go right to the list of people with their hands up. I have a couple of crossovers and some more people are coming on now. We'll start with Lori. Now I want to make sure that we're good here. Lori, you have to unmute yourself. Here's somebody who we know knows how to communicate with us. Akash.
Hello, my name is Akash Kanan, and I am a member of the South Brunswick High School class of 2018 and a member of the Rider University class of 2022. My proposal is for middle schools to implement a policy called Saturday detention as a consequence and remove before school detention, because Saturday detention has proven to be effective in the high school, and Saturday detention will reduce the number of suspensions and expulsions at the middle school level and will help students to do well and learn from their mistakes and have an educational experience in middle school, high school, and even beyond. And I feel it will help because I know that from my experience in high school that detentions and suspensions are educational based at that too. And I know that because I have friends who have received detention and they told me about the educational stuff that they had to do. And I feel that if Saturday detention is implemented in the middle school, people will do well and they will be learning from their mistakes. And then South Brunswick will be one of the best districts in New Jersey and in the state of New Jersey and even in the United States of America. This is coming from Akash Khan, and I love each and every one of you, and good luck to all of you in the future.
Thank you. Next speaker. I got some feedback going on. Hello, Sherry, Tamir.
Hi, Sherry. It's Sherry. Tamir is my husband. I figured one of us will talk. We live in Duchess Lane, and I have a quick question about the presentation. Our son was going into the remote learning center. Now he's in Brooks Crossing for the last 2 weeks because the school was going to open. What's going to happen Monday? Is he going back to Brooks Crossing for a mini RLC, or is he staying home, or what's the process? That's our question.
Can you have her email me?
Yeah, just please reach out to the superintendent via email with a question and your question, and he'll be sure to respond.
I'll answer your question tonight as soon as you email me, okay? I have to just do a little checking on exactly what you're asking, okay?
She got that. Next speaker. What? 8. Barbara, you're up to speak. Barbara, you're up to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Yes, we can. Yes, we
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, please. I'm piping right through the system.
I unmuted. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes,
Okay. Okay. So I just have a quick question. So I've been back for a few months. I teach LLD at Indian Fields. And I guess my question is, if we're trying to reduce the amount of people that are in the building, why are the other teachers going to be required to come back in?
That's a question, again, for the superintendent. Please send him an email, and he'll be sure to respond.
I'll be sharing that later anyway.
It's going to come out shortly.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks.
Our next speaker. Man, this is crazy. This is a little bit different. System's not. Ms. DiBenedetto, are you there?
I'm sorry, I
There we
didn't
go.
raise my hand. That was a mistake.
Okay, okay. Is it more Mr. or Mrs. Gouda?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
All
Please
right.
proceed.
Yes. Hi, Mrs. Scott. No, you did a great job today. I appreciate all you said, and we would like to support your decision. You're in a tough situation. The question is not about to question your decision. You're doing the right thing. My question is maybe it's not a question, it's a comment. In order for us to reduce these scary thing going on, we get most of the data, like 30 numbers or 50 cases per week and all of this, but we're not getting the actual the statistics, how this COVID is spreading, what kind of what happened to those 30 people who got infected in every week. This is not a question to you, maybe for the health officials. I need the voice to go to those people, no CDC on health officials. We need more statistics. All we get is the scary information every week, but we are not getting the information like what caused those number of cases to rise. Okay, so that's not what we are getting every week. That's why I want you guys to raise those concerns to the health officials to do some research analysis. How this is happening. If 10 people got infected in one area, which street, which address, we like to know so that we can be more aware of those situations to be cautious. Makes sense? That's what just a comment on to that. But I appreciate all you've done. But thank you for whatever you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. John Lawley, you're up to speak. John Lawley, you're up to speak.
There we go. Sorry. John Lawley, South Brunswick, President of South Brunswick Education Association. Good evening, Board of Ed and South Brunswick community. SBA is pleased to hear that data and science is again at the forefront of decision making as to what is best for the school district and its students. I'm sure there are many questions that need to be answered in the next 72 hours. But if there can be any clarity given to the staff at this time, I would appreciate it. I think I heard Scott say that he was going to talk about it later, so I don't want to, interrupt something he's going to do later. But there's a lot of questions coming in as to, it sounds like staff is still coming in, and we'd just like to understand what the thought process is for that. So if that is true. So if it's going to be addressed later, that's fine. If not, I'll try to reach out tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, please reach out. All right. We have no more hands raised.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public comments?
Let's go.
Moved by Mrs. Maddow, I have a second. Second by Mrs. Rogers. All in favor? So I want to thank Scott for that presentation. That, it's, we're not in an easy situation, and, we are using the sciences and knowing Dr. Fenn like I do from day one being at Brunswick Urgent Care. He's usually spot on most of his, on all of his stuff. So I'm glad you had him to talk to, Scott. So thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. Moving along, I don't believe there's any board committee reports, correct? As far as I know, okay. So moving along, approval of consent agenda of November 12th, which is this evening. Get a motion. Moved by Mr. Keener, second by Mrs. Rogers. Roll call, Mr. Pulaski.
Mr. Patrick Del Piano,
Yes.
Mr. Raymond Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Joyce Mehta,
Yes.
Dr. Stephen Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Devin Patel, Mr. Arthur Robinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Scaletti, Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Board comments and communications, to my right. Dr. Parker, go ahead.
Yeah, just to say that, yes, this is Dr. Fetter's decision that we put this on pause, but it's also one that this board supports. We understand the situation. The big issue is we don't know what's going to happen. And we just know numbers are rising, and the best thing to do is exactly what he said, is to pause, let's see where things are going. And safety of our staff and students is our number one priority. Educating them is what our goal is. That's what we need to do, but we have to make sure we can keep them safe to do that. So I know it's a tough decision, but it's what needs to be done.
Thanks, Dr. Parker. Any comments to my left? Yeah, Mr. Patel, go ahead.
President. So this weekend, coming weekend, we have an Indian celebration of Diwali, and I would like to wish everyone happy Diwali. It's a color of light, festival of lights, and so may everyone just be safe and celebrate, but be safe and have a social distancing. And within a few weeks, we'll have a Thanksgiving also. So I would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving too. Be safe again. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Just a couple of things. So, first of all, I'd just like to say to Mr. Feder that this is, indeed challenging times, and you have our complete support in this decision-making process, which it isn't easy for anybody. Secondly, I'd just like to wish the community a very happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. To say that we salute you, we commend you, and a special big thank you to our own board member, Mr. Arthur Robinson, for all his service to the United States. And I'd like to say that on behalf of the South Brunswick Commission on Women, we had our meeting, and we are continuing to plan for the conference and careers fair, which will be held virtually next March. So please keep peeled and watch out for the dates and some information on how you can get involved. On behalf of Municipal Alliance, we also had our meeting, and just to say that although funding has been reduced, we're continuing to provide our drug and alcohol prevention programs as best we can, and we're working towards that, and also obviously always looking at mental health issues. So just wanted to say happy Diwali out there to all our brothers and sisters, a very, very happy Diwali to our community. It's a very special, auspicious time of year for those who are celebrating, and a happy Diwali, Mr. Patel, to you too. Thank you.
Couple of things, no one else. Couple of things I have. Yesterday was Veterans Day. I want to pay tribute to those who have given their lives and also served in our nation wars. That includes our staff members that are served or continue to serve and are a former students, and also, like Mrs. Meadow said, always Mr. Robinson also. I also, like I do every board member meeting, I continue to thank our senior staff, Mrs. White, Mrs. Desler, Mr. Pulaski, and of course Scott Fetter. These are definitely challenging times, and it's not something that, you know, we always have to almost, it's like you're in a ring in a constant fight. You're always ducking and weaving. So I want to continue to thank you and all the staff that continue to work hard for our students. On a sad note, a friend of mine and a friend to all board members passed away during the weekend. His wife is a friend of mine too, is Mark Bearden. He's the former president of the New Jersey School Board, and he passed away after a battle doing COVID, which he had a diagnosis of ALS, and unfortunately he passed away this past weekend. So, you know, I know most board members, if they went to any kind of New Jersey School Board Association meetings over the years, Mark was always there, even after he wasn't serving on the New Jersey School Board as its president. And I want to wish his wife, Christy, the best. So that being said, I want to ask for a motion to close tonight's meeting. Motion. Moved by Mrs. Meta, second by Mr. Keener. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Good night, South Brunswick, and please stay safe. And all those that happy Diwali this weekend, all that are Hindi. So I wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving.